Hey guys, welcome to this week's review of Real Housewives of Potomac. I missed last week, but I'm back. I don't know if you really care, but I'm back. So just a little bit about last week's episode, since I didn't do a review, and since, the beginning of this episode is leaving off last week. I just want to talk about Chris. Something about Chris, on the surface, it looks like he means well, but I don't know. Something in my gut is rubbing me the wrong way. I don't really know what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to get a little too involved with what the other ladies have going on. I know that, it can be kind of awkward to hang around everybody in a big group and your wife has beef with several ladies. But at the same time, I just don't think it's his place to get involved, right? He should not, especially with Ashley. Maybe if it was Karen or something, but Ashley, of all people, I just don't think he should be getting involved with that. Especially how Michael Darby treated him last year by calling him white trash and speaking disrespectfully on Candice and everything like that. The way Michael and Ashley carry themselves in general, I don't super dislike Ashley, but at the same time, Ashley is not really that nice of a person. So I just don't understand why Chris is going out of his way to squash the beef. It's kind of weird to me, to the point where I feel like he's stepping on Candice's toes to do so. It's one thing in the kitchen last episode where he's like, pregnancy looks wonderful on you, and like kind of kissing her butt. That's one thing, even though that was still kind of weird, right? Maybe he felt a little bit shame by the way Candice was carrying on, so he was just trying to, alleviate the mood, kind of make the effort for everybody to get along. So fine, I would accept that. But then at the dinner table, or when they went to the restaurant, and of course, Candice and Ashley are going back. It's normal. At this point, who started it is irrelevant because both of them keep attacking each other at this point. They're like oil and water. I believe it was Ashley that, of course, has to instigate, right? By bringing up what happened earlier today and her and, just trying to make a mess again. So that's what they do. But for Chris to kind of get up and was telling Candice, come, leave the table, to the point where he was almost grabbing her arm. And she had to be like, no, I'm fine. I want to stay here. And we definitely earlier in that episode seen Candice get out of hand. But at that dinner table, she wasn't, right? Yes, she was yelling and carrying on. But I don't feel like she was at the point where she was uncontrollable. However, I can't deny that, she does have a reputation of, throwing butter knives. And they are at a dinner table with knives and forks. And maybe he was concerned. But I don't know. Candice wasn't really doing anything that warranted him to kind of physically remove her from the table. It looked wrong to me. Like, why is he touching her? Why is he trying to drag her? If she doesn't want to go, she doesn't have to go. And then he kind of gets upset that she doesn't want to leave, and he storms off, right? And he's like, I'm done with these ladies, blah blah blah, always fighting, da da da. And I get that, but at the same time, it's their job. This is what your wife signed up for. And I feel like the other husbands on this franchise and the other franchises, they're used, like, I swear, every time there is a dinner scene, the ladies fight. Like, name one dinner scene where the ladies haven't fought. In all the franchises, it's tradition, right? So I think the husbands kind of know that, and they laugh about it. They think it's a joke, like, okay, we're over here having fun, and the ladies are getting into arguments. Because to be honest, like I said, that's their job. So for Chris to get all huffy and puffy about it is kind of, I mean, at the end of the day, he's human, so I get it, but it doesn't really involve him, and he was getting along with the majority of the group, so I don't know. When they did get home, well, even at the restaurant, and then they had another conversation when they got back home, right? And he was telling her, like, look, you have to be the bigger person. You can't keep going and going and going. At some point, it has to stop, or else it'll never end. Because we all know that Candice has a mouth on her, right? So she is never gonna, like, say, shut up, Ashley, or something simple. She always has to be like, Ashley and her big ass forehead. Like, she always takes it an extra inch, and then Ashley will go and take it an extra inch, and it just keeps going and going and going and going, and it never ends. So I understand what Chris is saying, right? And I think, well, he keeps telling her this several times, right? Actually, during the same day, I feel like they've had the same conversation 3 different times of like, look, you can't keep reacting like this to people. You can't keep going to extremes. You have to be the bigger person. In one day, he has talked to her 3 times. So on the flip side, I do understand his frustration. But at the same time, for their marriage anyways, I don't think he should get too involved in this. Like the husbands in the other franchise, like, they don't get involved. They let the ladies have their moment, and they're just over there. Because if you get involved, you're making the conflict that your wife is having with somebody else about you and your wife, right? Like, you can't, as long as she's not throwing anything. And like, okay, Candice in the kitchen, definitely she needed Chris to hold her back and say, hey, you need to stop. But in other situations, I feel like you just need to let it go. You can't keep stepping in, or you can't keep trying to shut up your wife, right? Talk to her in private, but like in the group setting, I just think it looks bad, and you're putting yourself in the middle of that, and you're making the situation a lot worse. Another thing, right? When they were back at the guest house, right? Is it like, why did the camera keep zooming in on Chris and his alcohol? Like, I know they're trying to kind of go with this narrative. The producers are so messy, but they're trying to go with this narrative that Chris has a drinking problem. Let's just be real. That's what they're trying to do. Whether he does have a drinking problem, I don't know, right? We're not there every day. We don't know. I think it was kind of unfair for the producers to do that so many times. I swear they zoomed into his alcohol like 10 times during that scene, which was weird. Maybe 1 or 2 times, then fine, sure. But 10 times they kept zooming in on that glass, which is weird to me because they're on vacation, right? They're on a trip. They've been drinking all day, right? I mean, look at G. So I think it's kind of unfair to use this moment when they're on vacation, they've been partying, they're having a good time, and for them to use this moment and kind of have that add to the narrative that Chris has a problem. That's kind of weird. I don't know, next season he's probably not gonna be able to drink on camera because, they're gonna use it against him. Moving on, Giselle and Robin, first they weren't really gonna come, then they decided to come. I don't know why. I mean, I don't mind them there, so I don't have a problem, but they arrived late, and the last room that was left over was kind of like, it seemed like it was in the attic, and it was 2 beds together. I feel like even if they had came a little bit early, like Wendy was like, oh, well, you guys came late, so this is what's left. But I had a feeling even if Giselle and Robin came earlier, I mean, it probably would have been the same. I think Wendy would have gave them the worst room anyways. Wendy probably would have gave them the exact same room. But because Giselle has a broken foot, I'm pretty sure some of the ladies, because you know Giselle is Queen Bee, would have gave up their situation to give the room to her. At the end of the day, though, I don't think Giselle and Robin are being extra. I really don't. Now, can they usually be extra and petty and do too much? Especially when it comes to vacation and the room situation, we all know, like, any of the franchises, the ladies kind of make a big stink about it, right? And I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm rolling my eyes because here you are staying in this beautiful mansion in a beautiful place, and you're complaining about a room that looks exactly like the other rooms, you know? So, like Sonia and Ramona, like, they always have issues with the rooms, and it's like, all the rooms are beautiful. Stop being such a baby about it. But with Giselle and Robin, I totally get their concerns because Giselle has a broken foot, you know, and she can't be going up and down the stairs to use the washroom or have access to the washroom and to get ready. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but bathrooms are important, right? And especially when you're on a group trip, the last thing you want is to be sharing the bathroom with a bunch of people you don't really know very, very well. Especially, like Robin said, there are men in the house as well, and there's G, okay, who makes me very uncomfortable. So to like be going up and down to the bathroom and all that stuff with a broken foot or a broken toe, that's not realistic, right? Robin is on her period. It's just a lot. So I could totally understand why they would want to get their own place. So I don't think they're being, or they would like to go to a hotel. I don't think they're being extra at all, you know? And even, well, Escala was sweet because she was trying to be like, no, stay. But if it was me and I was in that situation, I'd be like, yeah, I can totally understand why you would leave. I don't understand why Escala was sort of making this a big deal. Even Mia, like, oh, I will give up me and G. We will move and we'll move upstairs and we'll give you. And it's like that. Okay, that's a little bit better, but that doesn't really make much sense either, because then you and G don't have a washroom. What washroom is you and G gonna use, right? So it's gonna be, maybe it'll be slightly better because Giselle has a broken foot, but it's pretty much the same thing. And I'm pretty sure in Mia's room, there's one bed. Now, I don't think Giselle and Robin would have a problem sharing a bed, whatever, right? With your friends, it's not a big deal, but I don't know. It didn't make sense anyways, but whatever. You know, I don't know if Mia and Escala are trying to kiss the queen bee's butt or something like that with their accommodations, but whatever. It's not a big deal. And Wendy was like, they show Wendy in her room, like Eddie's looking out the window saying they're leaving. And Wendy's like, oh, they're trying to make it a scene. And yeah, okay, of course they're trying to make it a scene. It is a scene. That's their job. But I don't really think they're being extra or they're making anything up at this point. Like, she has a broken foot. Why do I keep saying she has a broken foot? She has a broken toe. Like, hello, and you didn't give her a washroom and Robin's on her period. Like, obviously they're going to find a hotel. I don't think they're trying to be extra and whatever. But at the same time, I'm also like Robin and Giselle, they're expecting Wendy to be super kind to them and super hospitable, but like, look how you treated her. So of course she doesn't like you, so she's not gonna go out of her way to make sure you're comfortable. You didn't even tell her you were coming, right? You even said, I think Robin said she wasn't coming. So I don't know what they expect for Wendy either. They clearly all don't like each other. It is what it is. But I don't think anyone is necessarily wrong in this situation. I think they're wrong in their interpretation of the situation, but it is. So I just want to make a quick comment about the bus ride home from the restaurant. Oh my gosh. G is absolutely too much for me. And I'm just really nervous watching him because I feel like at any moment he's going to do or say something that he's not going to be able to take back, right? It's going to be a mess. Like, I'm not feeling G at all. And it's like, some people, they're like a train wreck, but you can't turn away. You still want to watch them. I don't even get that from G. I just feel really uncomfortable, right? He's coming off as predatory-ish, so he needs to relax. But Ashley, you need to be quiet because you are not in any position to be comparing your husband to G and saying the way that Michael conducts himself is better than G, right? Like, if you are comparing Michael to G and that is your standard, I'm sorry, your standards are very, very low. You shouldn't even be, after what your husband has been accused of doing, and I mean, he's done. There's actually video evidence of him grabbing a cameraman's butt. Like, there's evidence, right? So you can't say it didn't happen. Now you can say, oh, he was just being playful or whatever, right? You can comment on his motivation behind doing it, but he still did the act and it's inappropriate, right? Like, especially you don't know someone like that, you should not be grabbing on their butt, especially in a working condition, right? This is not even your friend. This is just someone you're working with. He's straight up wrong, right? And instead of having a little bit of shame, right, Ashley wants to be like, well, at least he's not as bad as G. And you're just making your husband look dumb. And of course, shady producers, they show the clip of Michael wanting to take off his pants and go swimming, right, when they're having a boat party. And, like, to be honest, that's not even the worst he has acted, right? Like, even last season with the whole engagement party, all they had to do was show that clip, So if you want to comment on G's behavior, fine, comment on G's behavior, but don't compare him to your husband. Please don't, because to me, G and Michael are in the same lane, okay? They're in the same lane for me. Another funny scene is like Chris, who wanted to show his brown penis, right? And he was about to take off his pants, and then Candice was like, no, and Wendy screaming like, ah! And Candice like, you're making Wendy uncomfortable, stop. Oh my gosh, thankfully Candice was able to stop him, because I'm like, oh my gosh, don't do this, not on camera. Like, you just never know. You never know with these producers. You never know how they're gonna take things. Plus, I don't know. It was an interesting ride home. It was an interesting scene. So it's the next day, and they're gonna go on a boat ride, and Ray arrives. Let me just say this, the double standard, right? So Ray arrives, there's Giselle. Giselle has a broken toe, and Ray is saying to Giselle, what happened to your foot? And she was like, well, I got it messing around with your wife, right? So it's just a little ha 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 joke. Then Ray, in response, he's like, Karen, how could you miss the neck? Right? So basically saying, and then they all laugh, right? They don't take it too seriously, but basically is saying, why did you just break her toe? How come you didn't break her neck? And I don't know, but I think breaking your neck kind of means killing somebody. Is it me? I think so. In most cases, you break someone's neck, you kill them. So this is the double standard for me. Karen wants to get so upset because she thinks that Giselle wished death on Ray or something or another. But yet, Ray can directly, bluntly joke about his wife killing her. Killing Giselle. Like, what? Breaking someone's neck. So, if you can take... I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Because Giselle could come back in 4 years and say, oh, Ray wished death on me. Right? Oh, Ray wanted Karen to kill me. Like, clearly it was a joke, right? And they all left and they didn't take it too seriously. I mean, to me, that wasn't even a joke. That was a pretty aggressive joke. Like, how come you didn't miss the neck? Like, and what did Giselle say? Oh, Giselle said what? I'm still gonna have all this. Basically, I'm still gonna look good after Ray is gone. Yes, was that rude? Kind of, but I feel like he was being rude to her initially in that scene, basically being like, well, you're getting older and you're not getting more attractive, so you better find a man now. Like, that's pretty rude to say to somebody, right? And so she responded. That's what she did. And now you're making that joke of breaking her neck, aka killing her, like you are directly wishing death on her. Right? But Giselle laughed like, haha. She started to laugh like, ha ha. Wait a minute. That's not a joke to me. I know it's a joke, but it's not a joke. I don't know. I don't know if I would bother even saying anything, because I know that if Giselle made some sort of comment about Ray, Karen would never let it go. Like, Karen cannot stand Giselle and Robin. But it's funny, Giselle doesn't really talk about Karen in her confessional unless it's relevant to the scene, but it just seems like every 5 seconds Karen has something to say. Now, I know it's probably editing for the most part, you know, they chop and screw these things together, especially the confessionals, so they're probably saying a bunch of stuff and they just put in the moments where she talks crap about Giselle. I get that, so I'm not gonna hold that against Karen, but I don't know, they really... Well, to be honest, I can't even be too mad at Ray, even though I think his joke was a little too far, because when he had his tax issues and everything, I'm sorry, Giselle was terrible that season. I think Giselle was just so terrible that season that she's kind of like in debt, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the others can get away with being really mean to her based off of what, was it season 4? Yeah, I think so. Based on how terrible she was season 4, it's like Karen can just comfort her, and people will accept that. And I have too, but it's starting to get to the point where it's shifting for me, where I'm starting to look at Karen. I mean, I've been looking at Karen sideways, but I'm starting to look at Karen like, okay, you know, you got your revenge. Okay, you got your digs. But I don't know, I don't really want them to stop either, because that's their dynamic. I get it, whatever. But Ray, that was not a joke. I'm sorry. No. So moving on, okay? They go to this damn boat. And basically, you know, Robin is talking to Ascala about her issues with Wendy, where she feels like her and Wendy, they can't have a conversation, that it always turns into a debate, and she doesn't like that, and blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, Messy Mia overhears this, and she goes and tells the whole group, and basically Wendy, that Robin is saying that she's became a new person, that she's changed, when Robin didn't really say that. She was just basically like, I thought we got along, but now we don't, and yada, yada, yada. You watched the episode. You knew how it went down. Like I said, with this whole thing, you guys know I'm of two minds. On one hand, I understand why Wendy would be upset, right? But then I can also agree with Robin that she is kind of, I don't want to say she's defensive, but it's kind of hard to, like, Mia and Candice were able to have a heart-to-heart, which, to be honest, they should have had a long time ago, right? They should have had last episode. They should have had that last episode instead of what we got, right? Like, they could have that moment where they be vulnerable and they open up to each other, like, okay, these are the issues. But for Robin and Wendy, I guess because of what the topic is, they are not able to have that back and forth or have that exchange, because I don't think Wendy is going to tolerate any conversation at all when it comes to her husband and cheating and these rumors. Like, I don't even think she wants to talk about it, period, right? So for Robin to kind of explain herself and to explain where she's coming from, right? is kind of impossible to do because Wendy is just not going to hold any space for that conversation. And she is going to get defensive, right? And she has a right to. I understand. I get it. So, but it's hard for a resolution to really come from that if you can't have an open conversation about what went down, right? Like, how can you move forward? So they're just over her. Giselle, I mean, I don't know what Giselle is really expecting from Wendy, to be honest, about, oh, Wendy didn't check up on us to make sure we were okay. Well, you really didn't tell Wendy you were leaving until after you left. So how, like, she is the host. You know, I understand why you would leave. I understand why they left. It's not that huge of a deal. But yeah, to be nice, you could have said, hey, da. You know, I don't know. I guess we're just going to have to wait till the reunion, which they already started filming. Can you believe that the season is almost done? It feels like the season just started and it's almost done. It's crazy. So it feels like we're not really going to get a real conversation about everything until we get to the reunion where, you know, Andy's going to ask the messy questions about her husband and the affair and whatever. And then we'll talk about it. But it's not going to happen right now. So whatever, you know, you're allowed to not like people. Like Wendy says, you know, as an adult, you may not mess with somebody. You know where to keep them. At the end of the day, they're coworkers, so they have to film with each other, but they don't have to be BFFs, right? As long as they're not screaming and carrying on every 5 seconds, it is what it is. Mia and Candice, this was a good scene, right? And I feel like this should have happened maybe last episode instead of things going so far, because I like drama. I do, right? I do like when they argue. I'm sorry, I do. But I don't want it to get to a point where every time there's a disagreement, they're going so low, you know, or it's bordering into physically attacking each other, right? And words have power too, so I don't think you should just say whatever you want to a person either, right? If you have an issue, you should be able to express what's going on with you without overdoing it with the reading and the derogatory terms, right? It's immature. Like, you guys are grown women. You guys could talk it out. And I knew, like, Candice explaining, like, she works hard on her music. It's a new venture for her. This is her passion. And she doesn't want anybody degrading it and talking down on it because she's worked really hard to put it together. Like, that makes sense. And I wish she just expressed that, right? And because she makes herself so... I like Candice. I do. I like Candice. But she does make herself so unlikable, and it's hard for people to really feel empathy for her. I'm pretty sure. Even me, I like Candice, but when she started crying, right? Even though in that situation, I think it makes sense that she would start crying, but I rolled my eyes, and I'm pretty sure people that don't like Candice were definitely rolling their eyes like crazy during that moment when she started to cry. Right? Because everyone feels like you're so mean to everybody. You go around doing the most, cussing everybody off. But then when it comes to your trauma and your issues and things that are bugging you, you start crying. Right? And I guess for some people it's off-putting, right? Or it doesn't come off as genuine, maybe manipulative. Like someone's crying to kind of get people to feel sorry for them and to forgive them. I don't know. I think her crying is genuine. You know, some people just cry. It's not a big deal, right? It is what it is. But she needs to do more of that. But unfortunately, too, in life, I feel like people take... Especially if you're a crier and if you're vulnerable and you're open, some people do take advantage of that, or they think, oh, this person's weak, and instead of having that empathy, they take that as a cue to keep going even harder on you and keep disrespecting you. So maybe in Candice's world, because she is sensitive and she cries a lot, she maybe is used to people underestimating her. So to compensate for that, she has to be super raw, and super like angry and reading people and all that crap to kind of counteract her sensitivity. But in the end, I feel like it's just getting her into more trouble. She needs to figure out the balance. You can't be doing too much because you're just sabotaging yourself. You're sabotaging your career at the end of the day. Because if you build up this reputation, right, of someone that cusses people out, that may translate to someone potentially being difficult to work with. And if someone's difficult to work with, I mean, especially if you don't have that clout yet, that could sabotage your career in the music industry. Because you know what they say, it isn't what you know, but who you know. So, whatever, Mia opened up more about her story. And, I hope this is a learning lesson for Candice, really, to watch her mouth. And Mia worded it absolutely perfect, that I rather you come after me, I rather you attack me, that's fair. But when you attack my mom, who's been through a lot, and she's not even relevant to the situation. If she was relevant to the situation, or she did something to Candice and Candice was like, your mom is low budget or whatever, I mean, some people would still be of the opinion that you shouldn't say anything still. And some people will be like, well, she's involved, and she's grown. It is what it is. But Mia's mom had absolutely nothing to do with this situation. So to put her into it was kind of foul. And then what added insult to injury is that Mia's mom does have issues, right? And I don't think Candice saying what she said would cause her mother to relapse, but I get where Mia's coming from. I think it just really adds to the fodder. It was absolutely too much. One random thing that I noticed, and maybe maybe I'm reading into something that's not really there, but when Mia started crying, right? And she was kind of really opening up about her mom and what she went through. I just found it kind of weird that, especially Wendy kind of seemed to be leaning away from her. Now, Wendy could have been still upset for Mia kind of being messy and saying what Robin was talking about and whatever. But Wendy was almost leaning away from her, right? And I don't know, Wendy kind of had this sort of smirk on her face. Like, something about Wendy's energy was like off to me when you have someone opening up about their situation, right? And especially if I was sitting right by the person, I would, put my hand on them or, like, oh, it's okay, or make eye contact. But like Wendy was leaning away, so I don't know what was really going on with them, whatever. I'm glad that Candice and Mia were able to work it out. And Monique, pay attention, right? This is how you handle situations like that. Because I definitely felt like if Monique was wrong, right? But if Monique just apologized and was humble in that situation and owned up for what she did to contribute, which she did a lot, then I definitely think she still would have been on the show, and maybe they could have figured out a way to move forward. But because she had an ego and she didn't want to back down, it just kept going and going and going. Because Mia really could have milked this, right? Mia could have dragged this on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and Candice would have been the bad guy. But Mia, she accepted responsibility for what she did, and she apologized. She was like, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong for what I did, and I'm sorry, right? And Candice humbled herself and took accountability for what she did and said she was sorry, so that they can move on. And that's what I think with these shows, one of the most important things that these housewives need to have is taking accountability so that there can be resolution. That's the most important thing that you need to have, because nobody wants to. It has to end at some point, there has to be resolution, because we like that. We like a happy ending as an audience, right? We love the drama, but we love it when the ladies are able to come together and have an understanding. And it's healthy to see these things, right? It's modeling a healthy way to have confrontation and disagreement. So, whatever. It is what it is. So, that's my review. Next week's episode looks interesting. Oh, wait. Before I end it off, G and Ashley. So, Ashley's tired, right? I think they're all tired and hungover. And so, on the way back to the guest home, Ashley is just sleeping in the van. And G is bugging her, like, oh, she looks so silly. I don't know what he was saying. I don't know if he was drunk again. But basically, he was saying she looks weird sleeping. And normally, what he said wouldn't be such a huge deal. But it's annoying. It's annoying, especially if you're trying to get some rest. And you have someone just always talking, yapping, and bugging you, especially when you're trying to sleep. And then once you say, hey, can you leave me alone? Can you pay attention over there? I'm trying to get some rest. And instead of him backing down and be like, oh, I'm sorry, Ashley. I'm just messing with you. I'll let you sleep, right? Instead of taking that as a cue to kind of leave her alone, he doubles down and be like, well, you do look silly. Like, just like a little kid, so immature. Right? And unnecessary. I don't like G. I don't. He's very immature. Anywho, that's everything. Next week's episode seems great, so I can't wait.